Anyway, what I'm going to do, I know David has to leave very shortly. And so I'm going to break protocol. And before I read the opening prayer, David, why don't you read your poem or any other literature
Thank
that
you.
you
Thank you so
gathered up
much,
for today.
everyone. Thanks, Marty. Today's quotation will be from Leslie Peltier's Starlight Nights. It's my very favorite book, not to mention the books that Marty has given me over the years, especially recently. But this one, if I had to be on a desert island and the sinking ship had a library with every book ever published in it, and I was allowed to take one, it would have to be Starlight Nights. And this is what the author says about the different returns, the many returns of Halley's Comet going all the way back to Attila the Hun. Within historic times, 28 visits by Halley's Comet have been recorded. On an early trip, it witnessed the defeat of Attila's the Huns in AD 451. It arrived in time to preside over the Norman conquest in 1066. In the year 1456, the menacing appearance of Halley's Comet so alarmed the Pope Calixtus that he decreed several days of prayer and established the midday Angelus. With a great clanging of bells, he then besought the comet to visit its wrath solely on the invading Turks. In 1607, it was watched by both Shakespeare and Kepler, and I like to think that it was also seen by Captain John Smith and Pocahontas in the frontier skies of Jamestown. On this following trip around in 1682, the comet was observed by Halley himself, who probed into its periodic past and bequeathed to it an honored name that it can bear with pride throughout the solar system. By 1835, when it returned, affairs of Earth had speeded up. Many a canal boat traveler looking down could see the comet glowing on the surface of his highway. Man himself had taken to the skies when the comet last appeared in 1910. Remember, this book was published before its return in 1986. And he was making fledgling flights of perhaps 100 miles. In 1986, our historic visitor will be visited in turn. For in that year, a spacecraft from Earth will hold a rendezvous with Halley's Comet out in space. Who would venture to foretell the wonders and achievements which Halley's Comet will witness in that distant year of 2061? Or will man himself prove periodic? Will the Huns be back again? Thank you very much, and back to you, Marty.
Thank you. Thank you. By the way, Gail, do you remember that you also have read the book about tree rings?
Yes, tree rings and telescopes.
I forget the exact title, but it's by, excuse me?
Tree rings and telescopes.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah.
That's one. And then but Gail, there was one by a lady who's at a lady professor at U of A. And in it, what David was just talking about.
I'm sorry, it was muted. The tree story, Marty, is the
Tree
name
story.
Of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Very, very good.
Because it's very telling when David started talking about the Huns. This is something that there were climate changes during this time period. And as a result, there was also a famine. And it's recorded, all of this is recorded in the tree rings themselves as to what the climate was like back then.
The other interesting thing is it can talk about the trees can tell the story about when there's an earthquake.
Yes.
A volcano going off.
Yes. That's what I was getting into. That's right.
But the book, The Tree Story, it's very well written. It's very readable, and she has a very subtle sense of humor too. So there's some good.
But it's fascinating. Also, this data has been correlated with many other cyclical events. It's such as there are similarities, if not more. It's more than similarities, but with ice core drillings at the poles, especially the South Pole, and there's more to come about this. Gail
Well,
was alluding
also,
to.
There's also tree rings, just, except you wouldn't call them tree rings, in mussel shells.
Yes.
They also show changes in the climate.
Next time you have mussels, there are other shellfish that could be studied also this way, but you could actually see the rings, and they too relate to changes in environment. At the time, there was a description of the sun was not shining properly for several years. Gail may remember this in the book, that around this time, it was felt that the temperature really dropped, and the quality of sunlight was poor. And at that same time, so was the raising of crops. And so when there are volcanic eruptions, huge volcanic eruptions, and they think that they identified certain volcanoes that may have erupted at this specific time, pouring tons of ash into the sky, and hence cutting back. All of this leading to the weakening of the Roman Empire and the eventual success of the invasion of the Huns.
Mm.
Yes.
What I found most fascinating in that book was, in the book, The Tree Story, is that unlike other ways of trying to date something, they can have a precise year. The
Yes.
exact year, not an era or a decade or something, it's within 100 years. It's actually the year, actual year that something happened.
So yes, Don.
I have to chuckle because I've been raising this topic for the 2 years I've been on in this group, and it never registers. But not only are tree rings and ice cores correlated, but also the magnetic orientation of rock strata, which
Yes, that too.
Which has changed, and also the isotopic content in the ice cores tell you what molecules originated on Earth and what may have originated from space in various significant events over the ages. So I think as we read Exodus, it's important to keep in the back of our minds that these dramatic events probably really occurred, and they're not exaggerated. Mm-hmm. It's not folklore. It's probably physical reality, and nomadic peoples were, jarred loose from their homes.
There's the book.
Yes.
Gail has it. There's the Tree Story.
Yes, there it is. Yes.
Now, does that?
Yeah, Gail, you're muted.
First name of the author is Valerie, and the last name is spelled, and I'll spell it because I don't know how to pronounce it. Trouet.
Trouet.
Fabulous book, really, and not a heavy read. I mean, there's a few pages you get a bit bogged down in some detail, but for the most part, she's very, very readable.
Exceptionally readable.
Very, very good. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you. Enough about science and literature. We ought to get back to why we are here. Yes, Michael, I'm sorry.
Yeah, about the tree story and the rings. Did that kind of originate from the bark of the tree? The rings are no, nothing to do with that.
When you cut into wood, you'll see rings, concentric rings that represent, and the space between each ring, if you will, each ring is delineated. It will tell you if it was a successful year of growth or a poor year of growth.
Oh.
The bark has nothing to do with this. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
and it's a fascinating story, but I don't want to dwell on it. I could go on, and Gail could go on and on, because it's a fascinating thing. I would recommend visiting the Tree Ring Laboratory, the Dendrochronology Lab up at the university. No, I have to control myself. There was more that I wanted to say, but
We love you, Marty.
anyway, thank you, David, for reading that. Anyway, let me read today's opening prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Well, we are going to, I know Mary is, here she is, and Grace is coming in again. We are on Exodus 27, verse 20. Okay?
All right. May I read that?
Sure.
Okay. And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring with unto thee 3 pure olive oil beaten for the light, to cause a lamp to burn continually, like in Hanukkah, in the tent of meeting, without the veil which is before the testimony. Aaron and his sons shall set it in order to burn from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever throughout their generations on behalf of the children of Israel.
Okay, let's stop at that point. Yes, Gail.
I have a question. It says, let's see. To keep a lamp, I'm going to 21. In the tent of meeting outside the pavilion that is over the testimony. What is that? Is that the Torah? Or what is the testimony? Mary? Oh,
Mary, you have to unmute yourself.
The tablets.
Yeah.
Let me read this again. You're talking about 21, right?
Right. I have.
Yeah, and you know what, Gail? I have in my book circled that I do the testimony, and with a question mark. So your question is interesting. So now I have to guess, and my guess is, as we said, I think that, you know, we talked about that they put the tablets inside the tabernacle.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that, but as I said, you know, I didn't do my homework to read this before, but from other times, as I said, I circle it and question mark. And let me see what Rashi says about it.
Let me see if I have something.
Did you check with Friedman?
I'm taking a break. I'm trying to read something here.
doesn't have a comment on it. Don't know.
No, other than
Don't know. Gee, I stumped the rabbi.
I don't have anything
Yeah,
with
good
regard
for
to it.
you.
So we will come back to it if Rabbi Mary finds something. What I wanted to do is in verse 20, it says, "You shall further instruct the Israelites to bring you clear oil of beaten olives for lighting, for kindling the lamps regularly. Okay, it could mean for all time. Where would you get the olive oil?
The olive tree.
Yes, but it takes time to squish all those olives and make
Yeah.
the olive oil.
Pay
Okay.
for it.
So where would they have, what would they have to do to get all this oil?
I guess it'd be they're buying it or trading for it.
They're trading for it, yes, yes. Because and so this is another expense, or to the people to be able to do this. And then I would assume Moses would inspect it for purity, so that that there would be no lees is the word I was looking for. Lees in the olive oil, just like you have lees in wine. Okay, and yes, great.
And
Good morning,
Okay,
Shabbat
go ahead.
Shalom, y'all. My copy, if we're in, you were talking about verse 20 and 21, but in 21 it says, if I may read this to you, may give you some other options. Aaron and his sons shall set them up in the tent of meeting, outside the curtain, which is over the ark of the pact. Right? Am I in the wrong chapter?
No, you are correct. That's verse 21. It's 27, 21.
Well, you were talking about what you stumped the rabbi, and I'm trying to, I can hear you all. I just didn't turn my video on yet. Just not sure what.
It's in the holy area, within the tent of the meeting. But what is in, I would say, what is kept within the ark itself?
Look what I found.
What did you find, Rabbi?
In the Orthodox translation, it's not the interpretation, although it's an interpretation. It says the tent of meeting outside the partition, that it's near the testimonial tablets.
Yeah.
So, Gail, like I do, that this has been written much later. So the tablets, I believe that they are the tablets of the Ten Commandments, the tablets that Moshe brought down. I cannot think of any other tablets unless you have an iPad. I don't think at that time they had that type of tablet. Yeah, so that should be. And in the Midrash, they said that the tablets were there and the broken tablets, also they put that as a Midrash. But I think that an edut of what was the word in English? 21.
Well, I have packed, the word packed. Okay.
Right.
Right.
And that's, yeah. And in Hebrew is the witness. And if we talk about witness, if you remember the story, when Moshe comes down, everyone else is seeing it, so they are witnessing the tablets. This is my explanation. I wish that Rabbi Roman was here to give probably a better one, but this is what I think that's what they mean. The testimonial tablets. Aaron and his son shall arrange it from evening until morning, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Okay.
Mine's more descriptive, I believe. It just says it's over, the ark, and then in parentheses, I use the same one that Ricky uses, our same Jewish Publication Society Torah, and it's more descriptive, and I was not sure if I should share it with you, if it would be more helpful or not, but it uses the word the pact at the end of the clause there as well, so it has more information. And I heard when it was read, when was it David that read? I forgot who was reading. It said testimony, or no, it was Gail. Gail was reading.
Yes, some people, you have two words that are used interchangeably depending on who's writing that we're reading. Okay.
Understand?
So,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's what gives us a chance to discuss it.
Sure.
Makes for more fun.
So
thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Now, if we don't say tablets, what is inside? You remember what was the movie with this guy that I like? The Ark of the, do you remember one? The Ark of, there were 3 movies on there.
Was it the Exodus?
No. It was
You're talking about the Harrison Ford movie?
Yes. Right. Yes, that one. Anyway, what they're looking for, the ark is a box. So what's inside the box? Unless that it's the tablets, I cannot think of anything else.
There were several items that eventually wind up in there, and for the time being, it's the tablets. And then you also had later on we will talk about this Moses staff and others, but yes.
That's midrash. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, this is midrash, yes. Of course.
Rabbi Miri, are you referring to the Ark of the Covenant? Is that what you were looking for?
Yes. Yeah, that's another word, the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, so let's think for a moment what a covenant is. What's the meaning of the word covenant?
Well, I think it's more than a contract.
Right, it's very close to a contract. Because, for example, the Brit Milah, the circumcision, is another way of contracting. Today, when we do a contract, probably go to a lawyer and fill up papers. But that there were, and we see that several times, there were a covenant. So it's the Ark of Covenant, of the contract between the people of Israel and God. So, as you said, so there might be other stuff
okay, thank you, Michael, and then I'll chip in something. Yes.
Read the Ark of the Holiness or something to that effect?
Yes, that's what they carry with them. The Ark is a box. And when we had last time, we heard that there were 2 that they were carrying it like a stretcher, and that's what they were carrying. The rest of the stuff, the parochet, which is the curtain and all that stuff, you can take away. But what's left is that ark. And what we have in the synagogue, we call also ark. Although in modern Hebrew, aron means closet. But that's what it is. It's something that you carry, and the question is, what's inside?
right.
That's what Harrison Ford wanted to know.
That's right. And
And if you remember in the movie, the way that they depicted it is that when he opens it, eventually some kind of a ghosts appear and lights appear, and as if it was the presence of God inside. So you can you can explain it in all kind of words, but that's what I can offer.
when I hear the word covenant, to me, it's more than a contract. You really have your heart and soul into it. It's not just a signed piece of paper. You've
Right.
given, it's something you hold most dear. And it's more than
Absolutely.
just an exchange of money or who will do what.
It's a very special
Yes.
bond. A
Yes,
high
Yes.
and
Yes.
special bond.
yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with Marty.
So
Because at one point we talked about it with Rabbi Norman, and I said, what's the difference between Brit and the word for covenant? And he had an explanation of what Marty is saying, that there is a difference of signing a document.
okay. And I'm glad that you brought up the concept of the Brit Milah, because of the a drop of blood. Okay, and we're going to be reading very shortly about blood, drops of blood. Okay, this is repeated several times. So it is holy. Blood was considered a very holy and special substance, and as a for higher reasons. We're not the only group of people who did that. The Native Americans had blood brothers and blood sisters. It's more than just a contract. It's a bond. So
Bond is a good word for it.
yeah.
I just want to, since Hanukkah is coming, and I think Michael said Hanukkah. Now, the issue of the oil in Hanukkah that we call a miracle, the menorah had a very little quantity of oil to last 8 days. Okay, that's the miracle. And why 8 days? Because 8 days is what takes to create that oil, that pure oil that's needed for the menorah. So they found the oil that lasted enough time to create other oil.
It's
as you were saying, Marty. Yeah.
And Hanukkah is is sort of like an allegory. The story of Hanukkah is sort of like an allegory, a rebirth. It's everything is created in 6 days. 7th day is a day of rest, and now the new world flourishes. And this is the same concept with Hanukkah. Yes, Michael.
I would say this. One of the reasons I believe also for that miracle is because olive oil burns very quickly. I think it burns quicker than other oils. And so that adds to the miracle that such a fast burning oil would last for 8 days. So that I think that would have to be included in describing the miracle.
Good point. Yep.
It's interesting because you're not supposed to use. They had other seeds that they could get oil from. Okay, and if they had sheep, they could even use lanolin. Okay, there's a lot of different there's just a lot of different ways they could have done this, but this is very, very specific for the use of the olive. Anyway, any other discussion on this? I know we've lost David because I know he's going somewhere today. And so I just, with a friend who's another astronomer. Anyway, I want to just, if someone would like to read Exodus 28, verses 1 through 5. Does anyone have a copy? Well,
Can I read?
Sure.
All right. You shall bring forward your brother Aaron with his sons from among the Israelites to serve me as priests. Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron. Make sacral vestments for your brother Aaron for dignity and adornment. Next, you shall instruct all who are skillful, whom I have endowed with the gift of skill, to make Aaron's vestments, for consecrating him to serve me as priest.
Go ahead.
That's 1 through, oh, that's a 4, sorry. My eyes.
To the end of 5.
Yeah, I'm sorry. These are vestments there to make a breastplate, an ephod, a robe, a fringed tunic, a headdress, and a sash. They shall make those sacral vestments for your brother Aaron and his sons, for priestly service to me. They therefore shall receive the gold, the blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and the fine linen.
Okay. Any comments?
There's a lot of intricate work going on there.
Yes.
Craftsmanships and skills and joining together and placing Aaron in a position to be in leadership and adorning him, because he's going to be, similar to Moses's job, I would presume, as a priest. So that's a lot to, raising him up to be respected, which they already do. But God is saying, this is what I want him to mean to you as your people, our people, the people I love.
Good point.
Come here.
Any other comments? Yes, Michael.
Here is this is another example. This is another example of being very, very specific. The instructions are very specific, and it calls for doing things in a very, very specific way. The materials and how it's done, and this very specific.
You're right.
That's very true.
You're absolutely right. All these details, and they didn't finish yet. There is more about how you dress the Kohen Agadol, the high priest. Now, there is here on the line on the verse 3. Grace, can you read 3 again, please?
Yes, one moment.
She's not. She's new.
I got
okay.
it. I'm here. Next, your brother, let's see. Next, you shall instruct all who are skillful, whom I have endowed with the gift of skill, to make Aaron's vestments, for consecrating him to serve me as priest.
Okay. You remember and Michael, when we were talking about the details of the tabernacle and the tent of meeting, that the job was given to Uri ben Betzalel, the artist. So Uri was an artist, and it says that the soul, the ruach, the power of God was given to him. Like we'd say today, the muse, or the talent, or the ability. That comes from God, it says. Talent comes from God. And here too, the people that are going to do it were blessed of talented people with the chokhmah, with the wisdom given by God. So we see this, and as an artist myself, I really enjoy that, to say that it's a godliness kind of thing. My teacher said, you know, we guys can paint 200 paintings and God will give you one good one. So it comes from wherever. So it's the same thing that happened there for the tabernacle. And as Michael pointed out, all these specific details for the clothing of the high priest. And now the question comes just like before, although this is even more weirder. Why did the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, needs to wear all this enormous thing with all this detail and the colors and the metals and all that? What's the reason for that?
Okay, Gail.
I would think it'd be for visibility. So he stands out from the other people that are in front or wherever they're standing.
No, it's a good point.
Okay. I'm reminded.
Can I-
Yes, go ahead, Grace. Yes.
I was gonna ask a question. It's encompassing his sons, his family, and the lineage of those who are there.
Yes.
You know, so what is the symbolism of that? I'm
Well,
curious.
you know, Grace, as we said, accept it or not, this was written. There are things that happen next time. We're going to see them regarding two of the sons, the first two sons, Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu, I don't want to go further, but those that have good memory will remember what happens to them. And the issue of, what did you call it, of the future, the
Lineage.
you use a
Lineage
word, lineage. The issue of lineage also in the books that we don't read because it's not Torah, we know that there were terrible fights over who's going to be the high priest. Is it the descendants of Aaron or someone else? So that's very tricky. It comes in the lineage that you're asking for. And I forgot that he had 4 sons because we hear only for the 2 ones, the first and the second later on. And I think that Gail has a point, maybe to distinguish him from the rest of the people. Although, you know, what comes to my mind, if we think about important people or important, I'm going to use the word important, in a community. Can you think of someone that wears special clothing for the event?
Priest, a judge,
What about what?
a
Yeah.
judge.
What about a bride? What about a bride?
I was,
No, and when you go to a wedding, you don't wear white because you want her to be the only white person over there. And then we have the crowns that symbolize, oh, she is the king and she is the queen. And we can go on and on about the issue of clothing to differentiate from
I've
lay
always
people.
thought, I've always thought it odd that generals in particular in the Army or Navy, whatever, wear medals. And I can't think of any other profession where you put medals on for every event, you know, that you've been involved in. If you think about it, it's really kind of strange and odd.
Yeah.
The military wear these, and some of them, well, you've seen, you know, they'll have 5 or 6 rows of medals. I can't think of any other profession where you
No.
display all your
It
background.
is, fortunately, it's just in the military, but it's universal. It's universal. All militaries do that. So,
And beyond the Gail, the fact that they have a uniform, you walk in the street and you say, "Oh, this guy is in the military."
right.
You know, they distinguish.
But
Forgive me, it's a very macho thing.
it is also a testament. They are wearing a testament to why they have been promoted. It isn't just
okay.
because they were in many battles and everything. It's like Boy Scout or Girl Scout badges. It tells you what you have accomplished, tells others. You have received it from recognition of accomplishing something. And that's all it is. But it tells you right up front. And we're going to be coming back to that in a little bit, okay? When we start discussing more of what the high priest wears. Before I call on Don, and before I forget this, it's a very important part of this. The comment was made that it was for Moses and Aaron. No, it was not. It is for Aaron and his sons, not for Moses. There is a difference between the prophet and the priest. The prophet is speaking the word of God, from God, okay? The priest is really the connecting bridge between God, the prophet, and the people, okay? So because the priest is going to be in charge of all of the rituals to make people ready to receive the important messages. Okay, we still do that in a way. We have a rabbi. In some temples, there is also a cantor. Okay, they have different jobs. Okay, but come the high holidays, there's an overlap. They both have similar garbs, but the robes are different. They're not completely the same. And so we have to think in terms of special dress. Okay, today there's less emphasis on special dress, but it's still important to some people. It's to show respect. It's a symbol of respect, and that's why this goes on. There's one other thing. I don't know if anyone else has seen this. We've gone from how you build a structure, okay, and clothe the structure, okay, within which the prayers will be said, and we're going to clothe the human structure of the priests. I have said this before, that if you look at the temple and place the heart of the temple, which is the Holy of Holies, and I think it was Mary who showed the picture a few weeks ago of how the construction of the temple. It is analogous to the human body. And the heart was at that time was considered the seat of the soul. And that shows up in all ancient literature. probably because it beats with regularity, okay, and because it was different from the rest of the body. They did not think of the brain as something else, but if you look at that, it is very similar to the structure of the human body, including ribs where the post is supposed to be placed and everything else where the openings are. Everything is very much like that. And so here we've clothed the Holy of Holies, and now the representative of the people who is going to be holy is going to be clothed in a similar fashion. Not the same, but similar. Okay, and so I see a similar, a parallel between what we had read over the past couple of weeks and now what we're discussing in the priestly vestments. Okay, that's how I tend to look at it. I don't know if it's correct, but I see this similarity. And yes, I do draw on anatomy, and I do draw on some of the different scientific reasonings here as well. So that I won't go into further discussion. I took up too much time. Don, I'm sorry I went off on this tangent, but
That's all right. I forgot what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
Okay. I forgot what I was going to say. That's okay.
If you think of it, Michael, in the meantime, go ahead.
I'd like to step back for a moment and talk about the medals and the military.
Mm-hmm.
As you say that, I was something came to mind, and it's not the same, but there's something I think to be said about mostly women in society. They don't have medals, but they have jewelry. They wear lots of jewelry, depending on a woman, and it could be, and I don't say it in a bad way, but that's what the women do. Men do it as well, but not as much as
Interesting comment.
the female. The other thing is that that this is going to sound way out, but I'll say it anyway. Look what has happened in recent years with tattoos. As a bad, they could. I think they wear it as a badge of honor because they put it with where clothes are supposed to cover up and shorts. They put them on their legs now, all over the place.
Yes, that's right.
I just thought that you might find that not only humorous but interesting.
Okay.
Somewhat.
Thank you. Very, very interesting, Michael. Thank you. Yes, Don, did you remember?
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Tweaked my memory. And I was going to comment about military medals or decorations, as they're called in the military, because they're really intended for an internal display within the military.
Yeah.
And there's not a direct correlation between the rank achieved and the medals that are worn, because the decorations show what you survived. Purple Hearts, if you've been wounded. There's various decorations for valor and courage, and it really is all about a life, being through life or death situation. And so I get that. Macho is often required when you're in battle. So, but it's civilians, as Michael pointed out, though, it is kind of weird. Civilians kind of mimic that with other but military decorations have probably been around since the Romans wore headdresses.
Okay, Michael, and then we can move on.
Okay. Also, Don, you'd find these medals on license plates. You'll see them very often. They extend to your automobile to license plates. I'm a veteran of Vietnam, and Purple Heart. You'll find a Purple Heart signet on a license plate, so it extends that far.
Yeah, well, bumper stickers too for everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. That's
And
true.
then there's a bumper sticker that says war is not the answer.
Okay, time out, guys. Okay. Okay. Anyway, let's any other discussion of this? Yes, Helene, please.
It's so fascinating how we need identification.
Mhm.
And whether it's tattoos or license plates, we want people to know who we are. What about the Orthodox? What about the traditional way, the roles, the dress, what's that? Don't they have their way of saying this is who we are by what they wear and Hanukkah, what the mother does, what the children are taught to do it generation after generation after generation. Why do we have it? That's my question. Why do we need it?
I think that's the basic question. Why is this important?
Yeah.
Is it important for the society or is it important for the individual?
Both.
Yeah. We need our leaders and but when we talk about the Orthodoxy, they're going to also be the keepers, and I mean this very sincerely. They're the keepers of the covenant. If you think about it very carefully, because they follow more of the mitzvot than most of the others.
They what?
Follow most of the mitzvot more than others.
Oh, you're right.
And so they are by their
disagree. I
behavior.
disagree, and I disagree, and I can talk about it for
Okay,
a long
go ahead.
time.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think that you don't rob and you don't kill and you don't murder and you respect your parents and you don't covet, or maybe you do, covenanted the wife of your neighbor or all these things. The differentiation between us as a group of Reform Jews, Conservative Jews, Renewal Jews is as important because we do fulfill mitzvot. Maybe we eat shrimps and mushrooms, but we don't kill and we don't rob. So they may be narrow and sometimes just select, just like us, what to follow and what not to follow.
Okay.
Because we know about children's abuse, and we know about spouses beating. So, we have to be very cautious, Marty, because I think that we hold the Orthodox as they held the flame. What we did with the religion is we did not assimilate, but we carry it in a different way. We go with the times. We develop things that, and because they are dressing like they dressed during last generation in the shtetl, doesn't make them holier than this group and your congregation and all of us that fulfill most of the mitzvot. And we also select, well, we don't know why we cannot eat shrimps. The answer is because it's written, but there are a lot of mitzvot that, and I don't think that they follow them all. I think that we, as I said, the group is as holy as anyone in the Orthodox community. And as I said, Marty, maybe they do for Shabbat things that we don't do, but we are studying Torah. And it is said by the rabbis that those that study Torah, God dwell between them, among them. So, I don't know. I'm sorry, Marty. I didn't
Oh,
want
it's
to
okay.
contradict
It's
you,
okay. I'd
but
rather,
it's a very
when I go out on
personal
a limb,
thing.
I expect people to chop it off. Okay, Michael, and then I don't know who had their hand up first. I was focused on Mary. I know Michael and Gail.
Yeah,
Good luck.
okay. Yeah,
Go ahead, Michael.
thank you, Gail. Um, uh, I'm not sure about this, but I'm going to take a guess at the when Reformed and why the Reformed Judaism came into effect. It was, I think it actually started in Germany, and the Orthodox, some of the Orthodox Jews wanted to fit better into society by the way they dressed. They wanted to get rid of some of that stuff so they would look and appear and to be part of the mainstream. And then I think that's possibly how it began. But then what happened was they didn't stop there. They started to take away some of the ways of the religious aspect of Orthodox, and so that may not sit right with the many Jews of the Orthodox, and that's part of the Reformed, I believe.
I would say it's more of the ritual. They took away more of the ritual aspect as opposed, this is what Rabbi Miri is getting after too.
Right.
But I think the rituals are different. Certain aspects of it. One group may say the words, and that's enough. Another has to do associate a ritual with it.
Yes.
And that may be what we're getting after. I don't know.
But I think
first Gail and then Helene.
Let me see. You say the ritual. I understand that, Marty, what you're saying. But I think the Orthodox would hold what you're calling ritual at a higher level than just ritual.
They do.
You know, be sort of the word of God. God said we should do it this way, and we're going to do it this way because that, in my opinion, may be a little higher than just a ritual.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Gail. And then Gail and then Helene.
I think one of the biggest reasons there's a lot of reform is because of the inclusion of women on an equal basis. And I think that's where reform has really taken off. And, you were mentioning our sisterhood service last night. We're half the population of Judaism. And I think the fact that we now have a platform and are allowed, if I can use it, allowed to participate and lead services and parts of the congregation's activities. I think this is huge. It really is. And I think it goes, sometimes it gets pushed to the side by the Orthodox. I mean, they have a whole different set of rules and regulations for women. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, now I know it's going to be Helene, go ahead.
I happen to have Orthodox relatives who gave me a testimonial on how the modern Orthodox, many of them, the modern ones, have changed the rituals. That the old-fashioned, super strict Orthodox still exists for some people, but the women have changed everything. The women are not putting up with the way they were treated. The whole idea of burial. I personally remember the Orthodox funerals, and they were just terrible for me. I just couldn't stand it. And it was the way it had to be. Well, it's changed. She told me that to this day, the women can, can actually sit near the men. The women have changed the rituals to fit the modern world, and they are not put down. She said, we even can sit next to them. So I'm just saying, since it's something I'm personally involved with the Orthodox relatives, I am not Orthodox, but the relatives have taught me that evolvement is a part of the Orthodox ritual. And they're still very strict, but there's women out there, and there's people out there that say, we are going to be seen, and we believe our children deserve to be seen, especially the women who have been put into such a difficult place since God knows when.
Amen.
Thank you. Even in the Orthodoxy, there, just like in Reform, all of the different branches of Judaism, it's very much like a tree, and each branch has developed little twigs. Okay, and some a little larger branches off of those, the main branches. So this is developing. In the Orthodoxy, there is what we call the Neo-Orthodox, and that's very much like what you were describing.
I'm very happy that you've heard about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, let's get back.
Marty, I
Yes.
suggest that you talk to Rabbi Norman and go into a session about the different branches, as you call it, of Judaism, because it's a very, very important topic to see how the conservative, the Dutch, and the Reform and the Renewal versus super Orthodox and modern Orthodox and so forth. This needs to be something as a class. There, I'm talking as a class, and I think it will be benefited all of us.
I will relay that to Rabbi Norman when he gets back. He's probably going to need a time to recover from all of this trip that he organized. Okay, now we're going to move on. If Grace or someone else would like to read from verse 6. Chapter 28, verse 6.
I can do it.
Sure, thank you.
Verse 6, they shall make the ephod of gold, of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and of fine twisted linen, worked into designs. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces attached. They shall be attached at its 2 ends, and the decorated band that is upon it shall be made like it of one piece with it of gold, of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and of the fine twisted linen.
Go ahead.
You want me to continue? Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead through the end of 12.
Then take 2 lazuli stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names on the one stone, and the names of the remaining on the other stone, in the order of their birth. On the 2 stones you shall make seal engravings, the work of a lapidary, of the names of the sons of Israel, having bordered them with frames of gold. Attach the 2 stones to the shoulder pieces of the ephod as stones for remembrance of the Israelite people, whose names Aaron shall carry upon his 2 shoulder pieces for remembrance before the Lord.
Very good. Any comments? Yes, Gail.
I just thought of another item they had to probably buy, linen, which is mentioned several times. And I know that I'm pretty sure Marcia has worked with interweaving. Linen is made from the flax plant.
Yes.
This is not something, they'd have to buy that. Marcia, you've used linen?
No,
Then why?
wool,
Okay.
wool, only
Oh.
wool, yes.
So yes, this would have had to have been imported in some way, but they did have flaxseed oil. Okay, but to do all of this, it would take an enormous amount of time to be able to do all of this. So just like with other items, like the olive oil, they may have had to purchase this too.
Let me show you a picture of the ephod, that kind of apron that goes all decorated. This is what someone thinks. You can go to YouTube and see a different one.
You'll have to raise it. There you go.
It's like an apron that is attached to the shoulders. So
And
all
that-
his clothing are underneath.
So when we're finished reading about the ephod and the apron and all of this, it'll come back to what I mentioned before about how we're creating a curtain around the ark. We're now creating a curtain around the heart, the body and the heart. Okay. And then as we get into it, and any comments about the lapis, the lazuli stones and the engravings?
Isn't it more of the lineage of our Israelite people? It's to
Yeah.
market, isn't it? To market and present it. It's about this community, and it's the unification of all these wonderful people who have been through so much and are continuing to go through much more. But to represent that this is a lineage of human beings. I'm just thinking out loud because I'm not really sure, but I'm with the nameplates and how they are to be displayed and how they're to be worn and where they're to be worn, so that he's on 6 on one side and 6 on the other, like the limbs of a tree. We were talking about in the very early part of today.
So if you now, I know Rabbi Plout says that on one stone, and this is according to Rashi, one stone held the names of Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, and Naphtali. The other stone had the names of Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. And it's important to point out that it would, if you look at all of the different names, and he doesn't go into this, there's another part of it. It covers 25 Hebrew letters of all the stones. And there's one letter missing in all of these names, a Tav. So it's, Rabbi Mary, could you expand on that if you can?
Well,
It seems more of a mystic interpretation than it does.
yeah, with the letters, absolutely. Now, if he's quoting Rabbi Rashi, Rashi lived in the Middle Ages. after that. So we're going to that direction. Now, regarding the number of letters in the Hebrew alphabet, there are 22 letters.
Right.
What it has is that the Chaf has Ka and Ha, and which one else? And Be and Ve, and one more. Don't remember. Anyway, so that's what makes the 25 letters.
Right.
The other thing that I wanted to share with you is that we are trying to figure out what kind of stones are those mentioned here. How do we know that that's what we are using? It's like the animals, they mention an animal and we don't know what it is, so we invent. Same here, the word behemoth, and behemoth is in English used to say something. We don't know what it is, so we assume maybe it's an hippopotamus, or maybe it's something else.
Good point. Very good point. Yes, please, Gail.
No, I don't have, I somehow misplaced or lost my book, The Jewish War by Josephus. And I don't remember, did he describe anything about the temple or the priests? The temple in Jerusalem.
The name that you are saying, I'm sorry, I don't understand the name that you are quoting.
Maybe it's Josephus. He was a Roman and he wrote a book entitled, well, in English, The Jewish War.
Josephus, yeah. He was an historian, yeah.
You have a copy of that, Marty?
No, I just don't.
It's a book, yeah.
I've
It's
read
a
it.
book about the time of the Romans.
I really need to get another copy because there's some things I need to look up in there. But it's a very interesting book. I remember that, but I read it eons.
Yeah, he's considered an historian at the time of the Romans, and through him we learn all kinds of things about what Bnei Israel have done, etc., etc. Now, how reliable he is, it's difficult to tell. He's a convert to the Romans, being a Ben Israel, but work with the Romans. Yeah, it's difficult to tell as an historian. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the issues. It's hard to know for sure about things, because if he's going to take the Latin language to interpret something, we're reading an English translation of the Latin that is from the Hebrew.
I was just thinking, though,
Proto-Hebrew.
If he's describing a building, though, like the temple in Jerusalem,
yes,
then he probably would be pretty accurate in his description, I would think.
Yes.
He's not philosophizing.
Yeah.
right.
So,
I've got to get another.
but when he talks about Masada and what happened in Masada, some people say that and some people say that, and testimony, he wasn't there, okay? He wasn't on Masada when it was conquered by the Romans. And he still writes about what happened to us while we were there. Till today, the ones that write history are the winners, so.
Now, would you like to continue reading, Grace?
Yes. I forget where I stopped.
There was one
11.
thing to say.
Did I stop at 9, 10, or 11?
11.
11.
So
Go
start
ahead.
with 12.
Yeah, go ahead.
Attach the 2 stones to the shoulder pieces of the ephod as stones for remembrance of the Israelite people. I read that. whose names Aaron shall carry upon his 2 shoulder pieces for remembrance before the Lord. So 13 is where I shall begin.
Yes.
For real this time.
Okay.
Then make frames of gold and 2 chains of pure gold. Braid these like corded work and fasten the corded chains to the frames. You shall make a breastpiece of decision. Work into a design. Make it in the style of the ephod. Make it of gold, of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and of the fine twisted linen. It shall be square and doubled, a span in length and a span in width. Set in it mounted stones in 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a row of carnelian, chrysolite, and emerald. I need to stop. I'm having problems with my eyesight.
Oh, okay.
So, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have a copy in front of them?
I
Gail,
stopped
do you-
at 18, so would be the 18 would be the next.
All right, I'll fill in. The second row, a turquoise, a sapphire, and an amethyst. The third row, a jacinth, an agate, and a crystal. And the fourth row, a beryl, a lapis lazuli, and a jasper. They shall be framed with gold in their mountings. The stones shall correspond in number to the names of the sons of Israel, 12 corresponding to their names. They shall be engraved like seals, each with its name for the 12 tribes. Okay, any comments? Yes, Marcia.
A question. Were other people doing these things? This is such an elaborate and dedicated to make these people different. Is this the norm of the times?
Well, you did have special dress for the Pharaoh and his entourage. You did have special dress with in Persia. You did have special dress in Greece and Rome. Now this comes before then, but they too will have similar. The officials really had something about splendor associated with them.
Marcia,
Yes.
Marcia, think about the Pope. I saw a movie how he was dressed, so he has one thing and another thing, like a toreador, like the fighter with the bulls also. It's this and that. With the Pope, he has gold and gold and gold, and really no one else looks like him. Not the cardinals and not the entourages, Marty called them. I always think about the high priest putting all this stuff on to this guy, all this. He has a lot of money. I'm sorry.
No, here it's sort of singling these people out
Right.
so that wherever they went, they were known to be a Levite.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as opposed to all of the other tribes, they did not have special dress that's mentioned in Torah. Maybe they did, but it's not mentioned. That's all I can say. But yeah, it's splendiferous. if you will.
Thank you.
But it's remember, but Moses, who is also of the same family, is not to be dressed this way. Okay.
Well, he came from another world. This
Oh,
is a
that's it.
world they're trying to make. This is the beginning of a new civilization.
Okay. It is, and you have to have certain hierarchies in a civilization. Remember, they're going to deal with other civilizations, so you have to have certain people in charge of different things. Well, here's a question. Will the priests enter into combat? Or will other tribes be entering into combat?
Well,
Sure.
I'm just going to leave you with that. I'm not going to answer it, but it's something that yes, Grace.
Well, I would think that during that time, because they know he's become anointed because of Moses's connection with God, and that helping Moses with what went on with, the tablets, that they would, his family, his sons, his followers, his people, they anointed, you're my people, God's telling them, through other sources. I would think that they, as a community, would want to protect him rather than send him into battle. I'm just, that's my hypothesis.
Yeah. Think of
I
it
don't
as
know
a
the
game of
answer
chess.
either.
Think of it as a game of chess.
Protect the game.
Yes, Don.
Yeah, I always have trouble with this section because throughout the Torah, God is mainly interested in protecting us from ourselves, from our selfishness, and from our bad behavior,
Good
and
point.
and our love, and making sure we love each other, and all of those things. And now he's all of a sudden he's into fashion design, and it's always a shock. Like, what? So how does that fit into the overall management of our behavior?
Okay, that's a good question. I do have an
That is
answer, but it's a two-way street. That's all I'm as a clue to my answer. But any other ideas first? Okay. If you're going to be close to God, you have to be and you're going to be a leader of prayer, of ritual. You have to dress accordingly. Okay. In a way, you are, it is a way of giving of yourself. You are serving God. Okay. And that's how you are being singled out. So to make people understand that the person behind the curtain, okay, is robed a special way. Okay. By the way, that's part of the allegory of Wizard of Oz, who was written by an Orthodox Jewish person. Okay.
oh, really?
and there's a lot of respect to be given, but if you go back and reread what we have read, there are words that are capitalized, one of which is me. When God is talking about things, why did they shall do this and that, it implies, for example, the very first sentence in chapter 28, verse 1, you shall bring forward your brother Aaron with his sons from among the Israelites to serve me as priests. So God is singling them out to serve him. Okay. And so this is what, in order to be closer to God, you have to be separated from the rest of the people by willing to do so. It will come up later what happens when you deviate from that. Rabbi Miri was alluding to that. However,
Now, also, Marty, regarding Aaron, okay, the Midrash said that Aaron went to God and said, "What's this? You know, Moshe and I are the same family, and he gets all these things, and he go up, and he's the leader. What about me?" And this is the what about me, what he gets to do and his family gets to do.
and it's
So it's a lot of COVID. Yeah.
If I had to write a book about Aaron, and there must be a book out there somewhere, it would be what Rabbi Miri just said. What about me? And he's paraphrasing what God has said about himself. This is for me. And Aaron is going to say, what about me? And next month, we're going to be reading about what happens when you think you're almost as good as God or too afraid to make decisions, things like that, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being chosen to do this. It's not, we don't want you to, in other words, it goes to Aaron's head. Okay, all of this symbolism winds up going to Aaron's head.
Yeah.
Grace,
Yeah.
Grace, what's going on with your blood sugar?
Well, let me see here real quick. I could tell you.
Okay.
It's 103. How's that? You like that?
Okay. It's okay for people like me, but for a diabetic, are you getting
Yes,
close?
Dr. Martin.
Are you getting too close to dropping lower?
No, it's straight. The Dexcom is accurate. 103.
Okay.
And then arrows. It's a straight line. I've been doing quite well the last 4 days. So it's not my blood sugar, it's my eyes. I was in meetings all day yesterday using technology, transferred things, my eyes are severely dried out. So that's the problem I'm having. Thank you for being concerned. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anyway, so I think that it's something that we have to remember this part about Aaron. Okay, he's not as his character is not as pure as Moses. Okay, and we're going to see the different flaws in his character as we go along. And that's all I'm going to say. I've spoken too much. Any other comments about the garments here for Aaron? Any comments about the stones in the ephod? And what we're going to learn very shortly what this is, why this is important. Okay. Okay, Grace, do you feel up to doing the reading?
I can. I just need
to
to be reminded because I turned my page. We're on verse.
It would be verse 22.
Okay. As soon as I find it. 21.
I think we read that.
Yeah, I think it would, on the breastplates make braided chain.
Yes.
Of corded work in pure gold. Make 2 rings of gold on the breastplate and fasten the 2 rings at the 2 ends of the breast piece. attaching the 2 golden cords to the 2 rings at the ends of the breastpiece. Then fasten the 2 ends of the cords to the 2 frames, which you shall attach to the shoulder pieces of the ephod at the front. Make 2 rings of gold and attach them to the 2 ends of the breastpiece at its inner edge, which faces the ephod. And make 2 other rings of gold and fasten them on the front of the ephod, low on the 2 shoulder pieces, close to its seam above the decorated band. There's a lot of rings of gold there. How many did we count?
I've lost count. There are so many rings for the entire tabernacle. And there's also rings on the clothing.
Here's some rings.
There you
Can
go.
you see the rings?
There you go.
I'm sorry. It's not a good
Nice.
thing. It has that.
So you want me to continue? Yes or
Yeah,
no?
go ahead until the end of verse 30.
The breastpiece shall be held in place by a cord of blue from its rings to the rings of the ephod, so that the breastpiece rests on the decorated band and does not come loose from the ephod. Aaron shall carry the names of the sons of Israel on the breastpiece of decision over his heart. Aha! When he enters the sanctuary for remembrance before the Lord at all times. Inside, you want me to continue with 30?
Yeah, go ahead. Right, and all the way through the end of 30.
Inside the breastpiece of decision, you shall place you shall place the Urim and the Thummim, so that
Tumen.
yeah, that's a trouble.
Tumim.
How do you pronounce those? Help me out.
Tumim.
Tumim. Thank you.
Tumim.
Tumim. So
That's
that
perfect.
if you immerse me in the language, I'll have it down in 6 weeks. So that they are over Aaron's heart when he comes before the Lord. Thus Aaron shall carry the instrument of decision for the Israelites over his heart before the Lord at all times. Well, there's that word heart you were talking about. Yeah.
Now,
So,
please check in your books, what are Urim veTumim? What are the Urim and Tumim? See what your interpretations say or your translations say.
well, I have a thesis by Rabbi Plout, and I'm only going to go as far. He says that evidence about the nature of the auricular devices, all right, oracular devices, I should say, called Urim and Tumim, is neither clear nor consistent. They are introduced into the Torah text as items which were well known, which apparently, I'm going to add the word apparently, were well known and needed no explanation. Yet the instances where their actual use is recorded are rare. In the Torah, not a single such instance is related because Moses, having direct access to God, was in no need of such devices. However, his successor Joshua was specifically ordered, should the occasion require it in the future, to make inquiry through the priest Eleazar by way of the Urim. It was by which it was by such decision that the people would or would not go to war. There's much more, but it apparently is lost to history. But we're not sure what they looked like. Was it a compass and a protractor? Okay. All astrologers today use those. And is this like astrology? These like birthstones representing each one of the tribes, and birthstones in astrology?
It encompasses all of that, doesn't it really? I mean,
I don't know. Nobody knows.
Absolutely, it could, yes.
Or was it purposefully lost? We are told not to practice astrology.
Exactly. That's the conundrum here. And this is what Friedman says, Urim vetumim. We have pondered for centuries what these are. They have something to do with inquiring of God for an answer to a question. They may contain letters that can spell out long answers, or they might provide only a yes or no, or they may also provide a third option of no response, no comment. They are mentioned 4 times in the Torah, etc., etc. What's important is that several different biblical sources indicate that there was a belief that it's possible to ask questions of God and get an answer, and that this was done through a priest, not a prophet. It was a mechanism other than prophecy to learn that the will of God, and it is known as practice only in Israel's earliest era. This is interesting. I mean, they don't know exactly what it is, but as you said, I mean, if it's a horoscope or the star or whatever it is, it's very no-no. Because later on, the rabbi said, you shall not consult the astrology and the stars and the sun. That's forbidden. So it's a very difficult question. So they come, do you remember in the Greek mythology of steel, what's his name? The oracle.
Mm-hmm.
The oracle, when people come and they ask a question and they are expecting an answer given by those stones or whatever it is. So it's kind of a magic thing that doesn't belong into Israel's religion.
Good point. Good points. Now, I know Marcia has had her hand up for a while, and then Grace.
Okay, this comment is from the Women's Commentary. No translation is given for these terms because their meanings is so uncertain. They refer to stones, perhaps similar to dice and lots, as to be kept on the breastpiece. Their function seems clear. They served as a media for ascension of a divine ruling of human problems. And then it says, when it comes from God, that is when it's approached the sacred space, closet to God, invisible presence over the ark. I don't know. That's what they say.
I like that. Yeah.
There are certain issues, because when we do certain things, when we deal with certain objects on a religious basis, it is possible for people to worship those instead of worshiping God. Okay? And the same thing And it's a trapping. There are people, and we're all familiar with it, where we say the money goes to their head. All right. The ritual goes to their head. William Shakespeare said, our fate is not in the stars, but in ourselves. Okay. So it's sort of paraphrasing what we're discussing here. And so maybe this was some of the reasoning that went through the minds of people to put that aside, because there was so much emphasis. By the way, it was a world crisis on with astrology, and that's why, because people were seeking out astrologers in the time of William Shakespeare to answer these very questions, and rather than taking it upon themselves to work out their own problems and come up with a better solution for themselves. But it's fascinating, and how this whole story about astrology keeps repeating. We're now in an age of astrology. If you think about it, not just horoscopes, but believing in other things having supernatural powers. And so this is what we're warned against, okay? Because those things are only temporary. Your God is everlasting, okay? It's always there, okay? It's not in the little objects. And maybe that's another reason why the Urim and Thummim would faded away. Or maybe little Johnny, one of the sons were playing with him, broke him by accident. I don't know. Okay. Any other comments about the Urim and Thummim? Yes, Grace, please.
All right, I wanted to direct this at our software individual, which I remember Donald saying something, Oracle. When you mentioned Oracle, there used to be a software that was like what we now call the iCloud or the cloud for storage. And then they took that name away of Oracle. And I wonder if there was some kind of emphasis from the belief system. You know, am I making sense, Don?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, Grace.
Well, it's
I mentioned, Grace, I mentioned that in the Greek tradition, there is a place that people come to ask the questions. It's called the oracle. They go to the oracle to ask questions, and usually is, am I going to be pregnant? Is my husband going to leave me? Or is my son become a doctor? I don't know. Whatever it is, it's a belief that coming there, they are going to get an answer. You know, you can explain it as a belief more than. Yeah, so some people said they, and Marsha mentioned something that it's a very nice metaphor, that it's like having dice, and you throw it, and you see if you advance 3 or 4 or whatever. It's just chance that it might happen. And that's what bothers the people that cannot explain why the high priest will have these stones.
Yeah. And think of casting the runes is another way of casting the stones. They had symbols on them. Okay. It's the same way of doing it. Same way of there are a lot of different expressions in that. But this is also a form of idolatry.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Don.
I just rewatched the movie Guys and Dolls from Broadway, and And there's one character.
Luck be a lady tonight.
Yeah. So Big Jewel is the gambler who wears a pistol on in a holster on, and so he kind of runs the show when they're throwing craps. So he brings out his dice and they have no dots on them at all. And whenever he rolls the dice, it's whatever he says they are.
Yeah.
I was trying to tie between, the oracle and the faith belief system of what they're setting up here, and wondering why that no longer exists. There used to be an oracle in software that I think Microsoft used it and IBM used it, that they called it the oracle. It was a storage system, basically, where you could go there and save your documents, you could back up your computers, and our government used it, and then they changed the name of it. I'm just wondering.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
There is a company, IT company called Oracle. They're still in business, and they do provide large-scale data storage, and lots of people still use them. They also provide other business applications, but it's mainly huge amounts of data storage. They're still around.
I wasn't sure because I haven't seen it or heard of it in so long, but thank you. I thought they changed their name.
No,
Yeah.
they're still.
Mary, could that be possible as part of the study of Kabbalah?
I'm sure that's a good question. I'm sure that in Kabbalah, you're going to find something about the Urim and Tumim. I suggest, Marty, he works on Kabbalah. So maybe you can, ask or look for it.
I would have to Google that. I hate to.
Okay, let's Google. Let's Google. Urim, Tumim, and Kabbalah.
Okay.
Is there a Google rabbi?
Yes. Yeah, he's a rabbi and he's also a priest and also a pastor.
Right. So I would take a look at the Google rabbi to get that answer.
Right.
Okay, I'll do that another time. Let's keep. It's going to take a while. It takes too long to work on that. So any other comments about the ephod and the Urim and Tumim?
I have to say something real quick. The chains, they're using chains to tie the rings together. The significance of the chains, isn't that symbolic of where they come from and where they're going to go again? I'm wondering if that's why that's come up.
A nice
I don't know.
explanation. It's probably a piece of wire that puts things together. But
well, I'm thinking symbolically, but
yeah, your metaphor is very nice. You have the connections.
It's as good as my connections. I don't know. Any other questions or comments? Well, let's continue reading a little bit. Anybody have a book in front of them that they could read to give Grace's eyes a rest?
yeah, that would be good.
Yes, Don.
I can read if that's.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's see. Where are we now?
Verse 31.
Verse 31.
Right. I have a different translation. And thou shalt make the robe of the ephod all of blue, and there shall be a hole in the top of it, in the midst thereof. It shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of a, this is a word I'm not familiar with, habergeon, that it not be rent. I'll stop there for a minute. What's the translation for habergeon?
Is it a coat of mail? I have a coat of mail.
Wait, let me,
Just coat. Just a coat.
it's a medieval jacket of mail, shorter, yeah. Okay, sorry, let me read that line again. And there shall be a hole in the top of it, in the midst thereof. It shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of a habergeon, that be not rent. And beneath, upon the hem of it, thou shalt make pomegranates of blue and of purple, and of scarlet round about the hem thereof, and bells of gold between them round about. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate upon the hem of the robe round about. And it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before the Lord, and when he cometh out, that he die not. And thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, and grave upon it, like the engravings of a signet, holiness to the Lord. And thou shalt put it on a blue lace, that it may be upon the mitre, upon the forefront of the mitre it shall be. And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts. And it shall be always upon his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord.
Okay, let's stop there. And any comments about the first portion that you read, Don?
Let me show you something that occurred to me. That this is the ephod,
Yeah.
okay, which is in the front. It's hanging from both sides. It's over here with the stones, and it's tied. That's where the rings that you were talking about, Grace. It's tied through like a belt attached here, so it doesn't fall away. So this is what it is on the front. But actually, what they ask it is that in this apron it doesn't work, but that it's open here. Here is open, and then he has the plate with the tribes. But basically, this is what it is on the shoulders. I have many of those.
Okay.
Oh, you're a cook. Nice.
So any other comments?
Well, it's going to have this on his head at all times before God, right?
Yep.
Does he wear it any other time?
That's a very good question. I don't know, but probably only when he's doing rituals, which is slaughter animals and pouring the blood and doing all those things that Gail doesn't like. And the sacrifices, that's what is standing there. Now I'm asking the question of why does he need bells and pomegranates at the bottom that probably when he walks, they go ting, ting, ting. What's that about?
I want that too.
Well, the first thing that came to mind when it said just a second. Oh, that Aaron shall wear it while officiating, so that the sound of it is heard when he comes into the sanctuary before the Lord, and when he goes out, that he may not die. What would happen if they didn't hear that jingling sound? What would, does that mean he died? While ministering, going into the sanctuary, not into the sanctuary, but into the region of the, not the Holy of, in the area around the Holy of Holies. If they didn't hear anything.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And to your question, Grace, it says when he officiates, that's what Marty was talking about, to put all this stuff. But when he goes somewhere else, he doesn't wear that. That's only for that reason. And you're right, Marty. So people know, watch out. He's coming, ding, 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 and now he's leaving. So for both reasons, he cannot walk around with that, not for officiating. That's my understanding.
I have another commentary here. That it announced, in addition to alerting the people, in other cultures, in Africa and Asia, it was used mostly to ward off evil spirits.
Good.
And in other words, this old belief might explain that the concept of wearing the bells would keep Aaron from dying. I don't know.
You know,
It sounds
after the
Kabbalistic.
Urim and Tumim, after we saw the Urim and Tumim, why not? I mean, it could be adopted from other cultures that, if I ring the bell, they all disappear. It saves me. Absolutely.
I'm again reminded of the phrase, ding dong, the wicked witch is dead.
Okay. Why the pomegranate? That's the bells. Is it to give a different sound or
Yes, yes.
fruit?
A pomegranate is a round thingy, like a ball. And Michael is going to tell you that when you hit this ball, it sounds different than a bell as we know it. Am I right?
I'm not sure, but as a pomegranate ages, what happens to the seeds?
It becomes soft and you can suck the juice out of the pomegranate.
Okay, but can you shake a pomegranate?
I think you can.
Hear the seeds?
Yeah, I think you can.
I don't know. I don't know.
Pick it up, and you can hear some movement in there. But then, you know what in New York we used to call them? Chinese apples. Have you heard that?
No.
Yeah. Now, the thing is that it's metal, it's gold. That's why you hear it. It's not a pomegranate. Although, when I do this, can you hear?
No.
When it dies, you can hear like a gourd that has little seeds. But that's the light. I collect them when they die. I love the shape.
Interesting.
But if it's metal and you hit it, you have a sound. And when you have a bell, you have a different sound.
Yeah, actually, it'll mute the sound of the bells.
Really?
Oh.
Think about that, because it's hollow. It's not going to magnify the sound of the bells. It'll mute it.
Interesting.
And it's softer. So you'll hear the bell, but it's going to be a lower tone. It's not going to be the shrill, tone of a bell. It'll be a little muted.
You're talking about the high frequency of the bell.
Yeah. Very good.
Makes it a softer frequency. Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not,
We'll have to play pomegranates and bells. We'll create a game. It's a season for them. Yeah, I just had 3 of them, and one of them got dried up. I should have saved it for you, Rabbi Mary. You know, and I did shake it, and I noticed it was, you know, I can hear that. Mine went in the garbage. Now I feel bad. I should have saved it.
Now, what about the frontlet? We've spoken about this frontlet that the high priest is to wear. You shall make a frontlet of pure gold and engrave on it the seal inscription, "Holy to the Lord."
What verse is that?
That would be verse 36. Is this for the people to see? Or is it to remind the wearer that his behavior should be such that he's always thinking of God first?
Perhaps both.
Could be. I don't know. I'm going to let you guys decide.
Well, the next verse says that the plate shall be on the mitre, not actually on the breastplate. The mitre is carried separately, isn't it?
Okay, I don't have
Mine says headdress.
just headdress.
Yeah.
I don't have anything about a mitre.
My translation must be inaccurate.
I don't know. What translation are you reading from?
This actually, I pulled it down from the internet. It's on King James. Probably not too good for.
That's probably okay. That may be why the wording is a little different. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. But I think that but it's more important than just a symbol of his position. Verse 38, it shall be on Aaron's forehead that Aaron may take away any sin arising from the holy things that the Israelites consecrate from any of their sacred donations. It shall be on his forehead at all times to win acceptance for them before the Lord. Okay, yes, Don.
Yeah, I just switched translations. So in the Jewish Orthodox, it says, "And thou shalt make a tzitz zahav tahor," which is translated as head plate, pure gold, and shall engrave it with Kodesh La Hashem.
Yes, holy to the Lord.
And thou shalt put it on a turquoise cord, that it may be upon the mitznefet, upon the forefront of mitznefet.
Yeah.
It shall be. That makes more sense.
It's interesting because in my translation, a cord of blue, it turquoise adds an extra color, another color thrown into the mix of dyes.
It's another dimension.
Let me show you in my book.
Okay.
Wait. It's here.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's on the
Right.
yeah, and
And
on top will
tied.
be the
And then tied
Yeah.
back here all together. Two sides and over the top.
and this is another one of those symbols of belief that's not Israel belief that this will help you and the stones will help you. We don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It because all it does is, you in other words, if someone makes a mistake and it isn't a sacrifice that is exactly the way it's prescribed, there's an inadvertent hair. Nobody sees it. It's it can be taken care of this way. Expiation can occur in a very rapid way because of wearing this symbol. Okay.
Shabbat shalom. I have to go.
Okay.
Me too.
Oh, we're overtime. I didn't realize. Well,
Oh, we're
Thank you,
having a heat
Marty.
wave.
Bye.
Thank you.
I'm
Yeah, we're all-
sorry. I apologize for letting it run over. Anyway, everyone be safe and have a healthy week. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Thanks, Marty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Ciao.